welcome to the Midland Public Library's celebration for International Women's Day. This month, we've chosen to celebrate the accomplishments of women through a series of interviews, candid conversations with women in unique careers. And you can join us every Monday at 7 p.m. for these special events. My name is Jennifer Paquette, and I am the Adult and Teen Services Coordinator here at Midland Public Library, and I'll be your host for this event. I'd like to begin with a land acknowledgement. Midland Public Library acknowledges and is thankful for the opportunity to work on the traditional territory of the Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, which includes the Chippewa, Ojibwa, Potawatomi, and Odawa people. We especially acknowledge the Chippewa of Beausoleil First Nation and Rama First Nation, who are the stewards of the lands in and around Midland. We also recognize the Métis nationhood currently represented in our community by the Georgian Bay Métis Council. We recognize and deeply respect their ongoing and historic connection to these lands. These connections need to be clearly and overtly articulated as part of our collective agreement to make the promise and the challenge of truth and reconciliation real in our community. We're so pleased to be hosting Kathy Willis this evening as our next guest in this series. I remember the first time that I heard Kathy speak about Operation Grow at a Rotary meeting. I was inspired. Operation Grow, it was such an innovative enterprise, and I was so proud that something so innovative was coming to my hometown. And I look forward to hearing more about it this evening. Kathy has been the executive director of Huronia Transition Homes for over 20 years. In this time that she's led the organization, she's facilitated its growth from operating a single site, single program to operating multi-site, multi-funded, county-wide programs. She's recognized provincially for her commitment to providing low barrier service, particularly through the integration of harm reduction. And to tell us more about Operation Grow, please join me in welcoming Kathy Willis.
Hello, everybody.
Thank you so much for being here. We're so thrilled that you could be our guest for our celebration of International Women's Day on International Women's Day. And thank you for your willingness to share your story with us. But let's jump right in because, I didn't even really touch on what an Operation Grow is, but can you tell us a little bit more about it? It's so much more than this really exciting vertical farm, and give us a little bit of the backstory behind the project.
Sure, I can. I'd be happy to. And happy International Women's Day to you and those who have joined us tonight. It's great to be with you tonight. So Operation Grow is really an organization, a program that was sponsored by Huronia Transition Homes, but it was really the ideas really came from the women we serve. And the women we serve, when we do our strategic planning process, they're the only stakeholders that we consult with because they are the reason that we do exist. And when we did our strategic plan a number of years ago, women said that they wanted something beyond the shelter. They wanted a place where they could connect with other women. They also talked about the day-to-day struggles they faced in terms of many of the women we talked to were at that moment in their life living in poverty, and they talked about things like food security and food insecurity and the lack of access to good food. And they talked about wanting to gain more skills and more self-esteem to do so many of those things that we're able to do, especially when times are not stressful. And so many of the women we spoke to were experiencing violence in their lives, and they had seen violence in their mom's lives and their grandma's lives. So it was really clearly articulated that they wanted a place where they could build each other up and support each other, and not necessarily a place where they were seeking more service or more professional service. They talked about wanting to build community and networks, and that's really so fundamental to the work of Operation Grow. Operation Grow is built for and by women, and the idea is that it gives women women who have a lived experience of violence, a multitude of different options that to come in to learn new skills if that's something that they want to do, to gain employment skills if that's something that they want to do, to practice yoga and meditation, all the things that we know are so critical for health and well-being and for healing mind and body. So not necessarily employment, but certainly meditation and yoga and connection with community. So that's how Operation Grow began, and we did lots of research on what are some of the things that are best support healing from trauma, and they were those things like mind body connection. So women knew exactly what they wanted and needed, and the evidence is there from the research to support it. And out of that, board made a huge commitment, and we built Operation Grow.
That's amazing. I love hearing about where it came from and that you guys work. So like you say, they're the only shareholders that you have a say. So I think that's fantastic. So let's take a closer look at Operation Grow and talk a little bit about the farm specifically. So one of my questions is how did it become a vertical farm, and how does the farm work?
Those are great questions, Jennifer. So the reason when we started to look at the model, we knew that food needed to be a critical part of it. And we also wanted to look at employment opportunities. So it was through those two things, and I can joke about it now, but originally I was thinking, oh, well, we'll make sprouts. And I called this social enterprise Sprouted, because I always have to come up with silly names for things. And out of that, we started to do research. I worked very closely with our director of operations, Haley McDonald, and together we were able to kind of put into a tangible business plan what women articulated that they needed. And that's how we got to the vertical farm. We really wanted to increase food security, access to good, healthy food at affordable rates. We also know how important it is to grow food for the community, and we certainly can feel that more and more in the experiences that we're having now as we live in a pandemic. And so we wanted to build in that employability factor and give women the opportunity to train or work in an environment that is actually provides them with transferable skills that will allow them access to a job market that isn't at minimum wage. And we've always, so we know that hydroponic farming is something that's new and emerging and will continue to as traditional farming is becoming less and less sustainable because of urban sprawl and development and a whole lot of factors. So that's how we envisioned Operation Grow in terms of it addressed issues around food insecurity. It had a very positive environmental impact. It gave women a really tangible area to work. And yeah, we decided we would open an indoor hydroponic farm. And it's a little bit more complicated than we envisioned to begin with, to be honest with you. And I think that was leading into your next question, Jennifer, but I forgot the second part. And
No, that's okay.
Cut off anytime you want.
No, we'll definitely come to that because I'm so interested in that. Now, remind me, what year was it 2017 or 2016 that Operation Grow opened?
I think our grand opening was in 2017. I think it's just, yes. And Operation Grow was actually from vision to opening 3 years in its whole development. And in that time, we had a whole slew of volunteers help us, our board being primary in that, but also community members with subject matter expertise. And we had partnerships with Lakehead University and a business prof whose name slips my mind at this moment, which I feel really bad about, who gave us a tremendous amount of support. You know, every step of the way as we were envisioning Operation Grow, we had the luxury, because we were self-funded and community funded, we had the luxury of structuring all our programs around evidence-based models and research, rather than around a model that worked somewhere that was now being replicated, right, through a pocket of funding or through a funder's decision. We were able to develop what the women we serve needed and wanted in this community at this present time. And that's a pretty phenomenal thing. I feel very grateful and honored that I was able to do that in my career, to develop something that has really ticked off all the boxes. And we've had rave reviews from the women who come. And Operation Grow is a membership program, a membership-driven program. So women, any woman with lived experience of violence in our communities are welcome to come and become a member of Operation Grow, and that gives them the opportunity to engage in those programs. And I have to say, of course, right now, in the current state of public health, we aren't able to have women engaged in Operation Grow, but that will change just as soon as it can. And we have had some virtual offerings, but that's also a challenge, as I'm sure you can relate to. Yeah.
Sure, definitely. So what kinds of things do you grow at Operation Grow?
We grow fabulous lettuce. We grow a whole bunch of different varieties of lettuce. We grow tons of herbs. I came home tonight with a bunch of Operation Grow herbs and had a fine chop over my piece of lamb that I quickly made. It was amazing. We grow Swiss chard, we grow kale, we grow edible flowers. We have grown lavender, so lavender works in our farm, but our primary focus is on kale, chard, and the variety of lettuces. As you know, those are, and the quality. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Sometimes I get so excited about OG, my tongue can't keep up with my brain, or my brain, I don't know, derails my tongue. The lettuce lasts for weeks and weeks and weeks. I've had a bag of kale in my fridge that kind of got shoved to the back, and a month later it's still great. So that's the difference about having fresh produce, you know, in the community. It really is amazing. And yeah, we just love being able to sell those things to the community. And then in addition to what we grow in the farm, we also take all those ingredients, and wherever possible, we turn those into products for sale in our store as well. So we have soups and dips made with our herbs, and cookies. We have, yeah, so we are working really hard to have zero waste in terms of our farming practices. That's not always possible, but we're trying really hard.
And what does a typical day at Operation Grow look like, and how many people are involved? I know it's changed, and we'll sort of touch on, you know, get to, I suppose, how COVID has changed things, but you know, what does it look like now, and maybe what did it look like in the normal times, you know, back before?
Yeah, yes. Well, I can tell you we're missing our members, because at any given time we would have 20 members working in the farm, not at one particular time, but that was one of the areas. So members would do everything from seeding, harvesting, pruning, all the farm maintenance that needs to happen, everything that you would do in a farm, and probably a little bit more. So and then we'd also have members working in other parts of the organization, for example, in maintenance areas, maintaining our building. And also during a typical time, Operation Grow, oh no, yeah, I've confused myself. So let me tell you how it should be, and then what we're doing now.
Right,
so, and also Operation Grow would offer workshops to members on cooking workshops, and those would be driven by things that people were interested in learning how to prepare. We would also host the Majing Market once a week in partnership with Chigamek, and actually that's a Chigamek program, but Operation Grow was a part of that. And we'd offer weekly meditation and yoga classes to members now. And of course our retail store would be open is open actually 9 to 5, 5 days a week. And there's some exciting things going to happen with retail in the future. We're not quite there yet, and maybe I can touch on that. But during the pandemic, we've had to scale back. Of course, the Majing Market has not been happening. We have been able to continue to serve in our retail store, but we haven't been able to have members into the building other than our farm leads who have really been sustaining the farm along with a farm supervisor, because we can't keep people safe and working that closely together. The farm itself and the retail are deemed essential services, but all the other membership programs of Operation Grow are not. So we're really anxious, as you can imagine, to have folks back in the building, both our members who we really miss, and just also we have beautiful meeting space and training space and a beautiful yoga studio at Operation Grow that we're also able to rent out to the community, and all those things are currently not available as well. So yeah, it's a very quiet space right now, and there's a lot of work with not as many people to do the work. So the farm has had some ups and downs in this time, and that is one of the things. I know, Jen, you had mentioned about, a curiosity about some fun farm facts, and I think for me, my biggest fun farm fact, somewhat difficult to say after a long day, is the weather. The farm still experiences weather, and I think not necessarily created by Mother Nature, but certainly created by inefficient HVAC systems or a flood or a clogged dripometer. So the farm does have times of drought, and it does have times of high temperatures and no humidity. So we are still learning how to be hydroponic farmers, that's for sure. But the things that we also have to deal with are just the double checks around the technology. There's a lot of technology in hydroponic farming. So many of the customers, as of recently, have also seen me working in the store, and we've had some shortages, and people have been amazingly understanding, but it really is due to weather. Like if our water line gets clogged on a Sunday night and we're not back until Monday morning, and the lights have been on all night because the farm's day is our night, then we have some really dry crops, and we may have crop loss. So it's been a great learning for us.
Having worked in a couple of buildings with the temperamental HVAC systems, I can only imagine what that's like when you're trying to run a hydroponic farm. Can you share an interesting story about something that's happened since Operation Grow began? Perhaps could be media coverage, could be success.
Yeah. We have, I think there's so many stories. I mean, I think some of the happiest stories have been staff turnover, because we've seen members, working in the farm, building confidence, and leaving us because they've gotten full-time jobs and or have decided that they've wanted to go back to school, and they've enrolled full-time in programs. So we have several of those success stories, which make our hearts sing. And I think it has been so nice that we've had leadership both provincially and federally under definitely two different provincial governments who have been so supportive of Operation Grow. And, we have had the opportunity to expand out in terms of our funding and our reach. So those are real gifts as well. But I think the thing that Operation Grow has taught me, and I'm reminded of every single day, is until we address poverty, uh, we're not going to come anywhere close to eliminating violence against women. And I think it will be no surprise to you in our community. I think we see more and more disparity between folks who have abundance, who have what they need or more than they need, and folks who are desperate and are resource starved. And I think the pandemic's really brought that to light. The lack of affordable housing, the fact that so many of our emergency shelters couldn't stay open and serve people during a pandemic because they're so overcrowded, right? So I mean, those things, and I think Operation Grow has really, for me, driven home the need to address violence against women on those systemic levels, and to see the joy and just the levity that having a supported, connected environment, like having a place where you can go, where you can decide to do what it is that will feed you, right? So whether that's working in the farm or going to yoga, taking a cooking workshop, but to really see that when you are able to provide women with choice, how much more they can flourish, and to realize that for so many women that we know, that we interact with every day, so much of their autonomy has been eroded, and yeah, building those things back up really, really change how women can be and interact in the community. So I think that is probably a very long-winded question, but or answer to a question about those are some of the joys of Operation Grow.
No, I think that's great, and so unique to hear a leader talk about staff turnover in a good way, in a good term. That this means this is what we want, this is what we like to see, and so enlightening for that. You've shared your fun farm fact. What's one of the I have a couple of my curiosity questions. So what's one of the most popular things that you grow? Is it the lettuce at Operation Grow?
Romaine is wildly popular, and romaine, unfortunately, was one of the hardest hit crops when we had our last blow of bad weather. But also, we had supply issues as a result of the pandemic. So when the borders shut down, there were issues around our romaine seeds at that time. So we've had probably 2 months with really limited supply of romaine and some really disappointed customers. But then other folks, I mean, they love our kale, right? Our kale is so lush and so tender, and it can't be beat as far as I'm concerned. And yeah, so I would say romaine is super, super popular. We're trying to introduce some folks to some other lettuce varieties that we think are amazing, but it's, change is slow. But the thing about the produce at Operation Grow is the fact that, yeah, it's just got such a huge shelf life, right? And yeah, you walk into the building on a day that we have harvested herbs and you can just smell it everywhere. So we're excited. Yeah.
And what's the hardest thing to grow?
I'm sorry, I missed that.
Sorry, what's the hardest thing to grow?
What is the hardest thing to grow?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that depends. It really, I think I think our most, our most tender crop is the lettuce, but particularly romaine. I really, now I have to admit, I'm not, I go into the farm, and right now I'm into the farm more than usual, just because I've been helping out with the retail store. But I think it is, somebody might be able to prove me wrong out there, and if somebody else knows, I'd love to hear. But I believe it is, romaine is really tender. Um, I think lettuce in general, because lettuce is made up of so much water. So if you have an issue with the water, with the nutrients, the lighting, then they tend to be hardest hit. There are other things. Oh, I don't know if I mentioned we're growing edible flowers now as well. So one of the edible flowers we have are marigolds, and they'll bounce back and recover through anything. They are probably the strongest crop. If we could find a market for, an acre or so of marigolds, we'd be laughing.
Marigold salads or something like that. Can you tell us a story about a funny mistake or something that the team made when we first started the project and what you learned? I'm sort of thinking with my Maker Place hat on, those sort of fail forward moments.
Right, right. Well, I think the funniest thing that, and I hadn't thought about this, that didn't cause anybody any tears or, was we had, I don't know if it was, I don't know if it, yes, it was. We had, when we had the grand opening of OG, we had a whole bunch of folks in. We had an open house with the community, and the then Minister of Status of Women came and did a ribbon cutting, and there were lots of politicians there, but lots of community members. Like everybody was there, and it was just such a wonderful night, and we were so happy. And the whole team kind of stayed behind afterwards, and we sat for a while and reminisced, and we were really, really tired. It'd been a super long day, and we got up to go home, and we realized that nobody had a key to lock the front door of our brand new building, because it was still under construction. So the key holder was still one of the supervisors, and we only had two keys for that building at that time, two that were in use, and they were both with Birchmere Construction. So we actually just wired the doors closed. I was convinced I was just going to sleep on the floor in the lobby that night. It was just one of those silly moments. And yeah, so we just wired the door shut, and of course everything was fine. But yeah, that was one of those moments. We've had a few moments where we have done things like forgotten something, like cleaned the whole farm out and forgot to switch the water back on, like those kinds of moments that we certainly won't forget. But I think, yeah, I don't know if those are the profound ones, Jennifer, but those are it. I think we all, like the team there so pitches in for each other. I'm sure there's so many stories that I just, they're just not coming to mind for me.
Yeah, I think that's great. I was actually at the opening, and so I'm thinking, what went wrong? Because it seemed great to me. So it was afterwards. It was a long day that day for you folks, I'm sure. And we'll be talking to Lisa Bertram at the end of this series. She's one of our guests. So that's funny. None of us are able to achieve success without some help along the way. Can you speak to a little bit of the mentorship elements that involve Operation Grow? Or is there a particular person or a group of people that you're particularly grateful to that helped bring the project to where it is now?
I think I can do both. Operation Grow still relies on mentors, right? I think we we've had, amazing partnerships with like a social enterprise experts. Ecos Nomos is a consulting firm that works with social enterprise, and they have provided us so much um, support in these last number of years. They've also worked with us in developing our evaluation, our ongoing evaluation of the programs, and really measuring the impact that Operation Grow has. I think Reinhard Weber was an amazing support, and he really supported us right at the very beginning when, executive director of a women's shelter and some board members approached him and said, we want to open a farm, and he helped us really sharpen our pencils around our budgets and our business plan. But he's been a tremendous support and is always just a phone call away. And that's pretty incredible. He offers up support to me all the time. And I've learned a lot from Reinhardt. So I really appreciate that. I think um, the Canadian Women's Foundation has been an amazing support for us and a mentor. And Canadian Women's Foundation has opened so many doors for us in terms of honing our skills and connecting with other social enterprises, but they've also connected us with other entrepreneurs and have really um, made some solid connection for us with business in order to strategize around Operation Growth. So it's hard when you start listing people because of course you're going to miss some really significant folks, but I think we've had a lot of mentors, and I think we've also benefited from Haley's hard work in terms of Haley's currently doing a master's degree, and her research has been around social enterprise and also layering on access to food and food insecurity. And I'm not doing her studies justice either, but she's had academic mentors that have been supporting her, and also it's her research and her studies have informed more and more some of I guess not necessarily the vision for sure to begin with, but also in terms of making sure that our values live in every decision that we're making, both at Operation Grow, but across our organization. And I think that is one thing that's really exciting for me, as we have an amazing mission statement at Huronia Transition Homes about ending violence against all women and all children. And it rooted in that is a commitment to strive for equity and inclusion for all folks. Um, and we want to take that even further as we grow. And I think Operation Grow as a business has also taught us that we need to do that. So that's going to start to be reflected in our procurement policies and how we purchase and where we purchase. We we work really hard at supporting local as much as we can and feeding the local economy, because it's certainly taxpayers' dollars that are supporting all of our programs and services and through government funding, right? So I think that those things are important, and I think that those folks also, like, our community is a mentor. I guess that's the other piece I'm trying to say. Our community has been a mentor there. They, in terms of telling us what they need and providing us support, and also, of course, the women we serve for sure every day. If we, as we bear witness to women, and we authentically hear and allow them to guide us, they are truly the most critical mentor that we can have.
It really embodies that sense of Operation Grow being such a community hub. To hear you talk about So here we have this social enterprise that is really about women supporting other women, whether it's, farm leads supporting members to learn things in the farm, or yoga and that connection of mind, body, and spirit and all that. So there's so many great things at play in the project itself. And then to hear you talk about all of the different community aspects and people and organizations that really help to support the community, and then Operation Grow in turn supporting, with your procurement and local. So it's just like a whole bunch of just interconnections, and I love hearing that. So that's fantastic. Can you tell us about an accomplishment involving Operation Grow that you're most proud of? Maybe it's even just what you alluded to earlier about how this project has been such a pivotal moment or such an important moment in your career.
It absolutely is. It is. I mean, I've had lots of career highlights, but being able to develop and envision and grow Operation Grow alongside the women, and that's women at all level in my organization, right? The board of directors and my staff team and yeah, the women who led the strategic planning process. All of those things are critical. But is there one? I think it was when we got. I'd have to say for me, a pivotal point was when we received the first external evaluation report, and we heard from membership and the community that we were doing it right. We weren't perfect, right? There's things we were missing, and it's not that Operation Grow has been able to kind of just open up and everything's been easy. We had the building was shut down because of an HVAC malfunction that created some other problems in the building. So there was a number of months the farm was completely shut down, and then restarted, which is really a 10-week process, right? Because everything has to be staggered in the farm for continuous growing. So, and there have been times where we've had these false starts with members, right? Where we said, okay, we're ready to offer this, and then something has happened. And that's been hard to bear witness to, when we've disappointed members. Pardon me. But all of those things have resulted in continuous improvement, right? And the evaluation was pivotal for us when we heard, I think, it kind of goes back to a piece, and I'm sorry if I'm making some people get sleepy, but how important it is for programs and services to be evaluating programs and services. So because unless you're talking to the people you're serving and in a way that they can give you authentic feedback, it's really difficult and challenging to know. And I think the evaluation process that we've engaged in at Operation Grow has really taught me that. So even though women were telling us that we hit all the high marks, there are lots of ways that we could improve those things so that they could have better experiences. But I do feel that was a critical high point.
I can imagine. Is there anything else you wanted to tell our viewers about Operation Grow? Anything that we haven't covered? I mean,
I think I want to say there's a couple of things. One is farming's hard work, and hydroponic farming's hard work. There's a lot of grunt work involved. There's a lot of water involved, right? And so it's physical work. But the really neat thing about the farm as well is that people can also do the farming work from a wheelchair, right? So it's more accessible, and in terms of being able to meet a whole bunch of different physical abilities, but it's still really challenging work. And I think that's one thing I want to say. The other thing that I have been thinking about since you asked us to talk about this, about Operation Grow, and in the context of, kind of non-traditional career choices for women, um, I was thinking lots about that because it used to be that farming was exclusively women's work, right? And then as farming became more industrialized and more of a commoditized, I think I got that word totally wrong. You could see that women were kind of pushed to the margins of the business aspect of farming, though women's labor has always been exploited in farming, right? And and it's only in the context of some countries where women aren't one, most the primary farmers, and two aren't making the profits, right? Or aren't having access to the profits from the land. So that's an interesting piece. And I, of course, have in classic Willis style completely forgotten my second point. Can you ask me that question again, please?
Yeah, no, of course. So I wanted to know if you wanted to let anybody else know anything about Operation Grow. And so you were sort of saying about the idea of women in unique careers and farming. So farming is hard work and it's super accessible.
Yeah, and I think perhaps I did get it. Those were my two key points. There was one also just about, yes, the idea of how women have, in Canada especially, women are not well represented in agriculture, and especially in terms of informing agriculture policy, and that's something that I hope changes.
I'll just make a side note to our audience members. If you have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat box. I have a couple more, but I just wanted to give you the opportunity to drop those in there just in case. So in our series, Kathy, it's been a discussion with women in unique careers, and we've asked our guests for their 5 things I wish someone had told me before I started. So you've been executive director of Huronia Transition Homes for over 26 years. What has this position taught you, or what advice would you give to women seeking to begin a career in anything social enterprise, vertical farming, or even social services?
I say go for it. And I say, don't be afraid of leadership, and don't be afraid of assuming more responsibility. I think in terms of my growth, I've always been entrepreneurial, but I wasn't necessarily, I wasn't policy driven. I wasn't formally policy trained, I would say. But I was able, I started in a small organization, and I, as an executive director in that leadership role, I think, and I was able to grow my skills there. And I think it's really important for women to just trust yourself, be assertive, know that you have and deserve a place at the table. Arm yourself with as much skill as you can, and access as many tools as you can. And it doesn't have to be formal education. There are lots of ways to learn and build skills. I think one of the things that I wish somebody had talked to me more about was building a trusted support network of other leaders, so that you had a place where you could go. Leadership is hard, and it's also, I mean, incredibly rewarding, right? Both things are true. You have opportunities to build things and develop things, and on the other side you have the risk of that, and you have to make sure that you have the skill set that you need around you in order to have those things come to fruition. But I think it's also, if you want to be an empathic supportive leader, that you do need a trusted group of folks that you can run things by. And I've been fortunate enough that I've had that in my career, because there are always areas of, yeah, I believe that ethics and compassion are so important in leadership, and it uh, it really requires lots of thought and reflection around decisions, around policy choices, and they're always changing. Everything is always changing, so you have to be open to that. I think as a good leaders need to be open to being challenged. And I think when you're young, or when I was young, pardon me, when I was a young leader, because I had a kind of a socialization around, there was a mixed messages around questioning authority, and I think it's really important to question authority, and I think it's also really important to do that respectfully. So how do developing skillful communication so that you are able to exchange ideas. We have to be able to disagree. And I think that that's something even more challenging in all women's work environments. And I really do believe that so much of that is rooted in women's, socialization, right? Um, and I think it's really important that we learn those skills about clear, direct communication. And I think that's critical in leadership, but I think it's critical in ethical practice, period.
That's excellent advice. Are there any exciting next steps for Operation Grow that you can share with us?
Hopefully we're going to, be on the other side of this pandemic soon, and we'll have our members back in and the place will be more lively. I think uh, an exciting next step is that we are um, going to finally get our store merchandised. We're really working on that now. We've done customer surveys, and we really just want to be able to offer so much more at Operation Grow for people who are shopping with us now. And I think another really exciting thing is that we're finally going to finish all our signage around the building. So in the next couple of months, things should look a little bit more lively and fun. And I think the other exciting thing is slowly we'll see the property around OG transform and become more food growing as well. That's something that we want to integrate. That's going to take us a while to do, but those are really exciting developments for us.
That's fantastic. I look forward to seeing all that. I walk by the building twice a day when I'm walking my dog. So, it's always, it's fantastic. And it's just so neat to see the vertical farm, through the window. And yeah, it's great. I look forward to those changes. Now I'm a librarian. I work for the library. So I always have this question about, books. What are you reading? What books do you love? Anything of note that you'd like to share with us, Kathy?
Sure, I can. I think one of the things you had asked earlier or mentioned you might be asking is one of your favorite books. And I
Yes.
pulled one aside that I really, really loved, and it's called Why. And it was the first novel of Marjorie Salona, I believe her name is. And it was such a beautiful book. It was one of those books that really made me laugh out loud a lot and also cry. A brilliant storyteller. It's about it's a layered story that is done so gracefully, and it is about a young woman. It's about several young women, really, but the young woman was left at the YM or YWCA as when she was just born, and the story is about her life, and also then how she comes back into relationship with her biological mother. And it's just a beautiful story, and it's so real and raw and loving and caring, all those things, all the things that human life is. So um, I lent my original copy out and I never got it back, so I saw it again and bought another copy. So if anybody wants to borrow it, I'm happy.
That's a sign of a good book right there, when you have to buy another copy because your friend, someone you lent it to it. That's an excellent recommendation. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm also, I mean, I love Michelle Obama's book. That was a great book. I also like Tara Brach's Radical Acceptance, which is about mindfulness and Buddhist philosophy. There's a couple of books on my to-do list, and one is Radical Dharma, which talks about you know, the politics of inclusion in Buddhism and analysis around that. And yeah, there's a couple more, but they're slipping my mind right now. I have more books right now than I have time, but that's all right.
That's always a bookworm's problem. So many books, so little time, for sure.
That's right.
Well, Kathy, thanks for taking the time to speak with us this evening. I really appreciate your being here. And thank you for all the important work you do in the community. For your continued advocacy for social change and for all the work that you do to end violence against women and children. Very important. And we appreciate it. So thank you. And on a day like today, it's worth celebrating inspiring women like yourselves. Thank you to you, our audience, for joining us. You can find Operation Grow at 436 Bay Street. That's in the old LCBO building, and on social media. Kathy, just one more time, the hours of operation.
Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 right now. We'll expand those hours soon, but not too soon.
And be sure to check out their Instagram, folks. It's got, last weekend there was a post about spreads that would be perfect for your charcuterie board. You can visit their retail space for fresh produce, dressings, baked goods, soups, and more. We continue to interview inspiring women on this series, and next week our special guest is Ashley Hebner. Ashley has worked in fire and emergency services since 2006, and she was the first and only female volunteer firefighter on the team in Tiny, and then subsequently in the town of Penetanguishene. And that interview is next Monday, the 15th at 7 p.m. Thank you, everyone, for everything. It was such a pleasure having you as our guest, Kathy. I wish you all the best for the rest of your evening, and happy International Women's Day, everyone.